Oh, I should warn you. I am live streaming this lecture to YouTube. Technically, it is ambiguous what legal protections you have about that. So, like, your voice could potentially appear in a YouTube video. I don't think it's going to do that because of the directional microphone, but you might want to. Here's an example of something you shouldn't say in this class, even if whether it's true or not. My name is Calvin Deutschbein, and I committed a felony, and I committed it not so long ago that it's currently within the statute of limitations, and then I also don't say my home address. So, like, use some intelligence around that, right? If you are uncomfortable with me live recording lectures, that is no problem. You send me an email, and I will disappear them all, and that will never be discussed again. In general, I have found at Willamette, students like the lecture recordings, so I just do them, and it's opt-out. So if you don't want there to be a recording of these lectures, no problem. They will disappear. Any one of you can veto it. I expect that not to happen, but if it does, and also I reserve the right to veto it, so if the lectures go away, that might be because I confessed to a felony on a live stream, right? So all of these things can happen. Okay, we are now going to begin the lengthy process of starting a course. I am going to begin this course using Google, and I'm going to use Google for a lot of things. There are, to my mind, two real monopolistic tech companies that you can use for everything. There's Google and Microsoft. I'm going to give an example of some products that both of them have. Both of them have an enterprise-grade AI chatbot. Google has Gemini. Microsoft has Copilot, and they also seem to own ChatGPT, and then it gets kind of confusing. Both of them have a major email service. Google's, it has been called Gmail for a long time. Microsoft's has had different names. It's currently mostly going by Outlook. It was called Hotmail before that. There was also MSN before that. Somewhere around 95% of the emails in the world get sent from either Google or Microsoft accounts. The other most common one is many of you probably have iPhones, for example. That has sort of the third most common. There is also such thing as an operating system, which is the lowest level code that runs on your computer. I have a cell phone right here. This is an Android cell phone, so it has a it has a Google operating system on it, Android. This device here, these monitors are currently hooked up to my laptop, but if they were not, they would be hooked up to a physical box in this cabinet right here that is running a Microsoft operating system, Windows. There is, of course, the third operating system, Apple. I see in the front row we have a row of apples here. So you are neither using Microsoft nor Google. You're using the mysterious third thing, Apple. Right. I don't want to give the impression that I like or dislike Microsoft, Google, or Apple, or anything else. That's not like a particularly productive thing to do. But I'm going to somewhat vigorously use Google tools this term. And I'm using that because the university is using Google. I pulled this up here to show you an example. I'm not an expert in library science or anything, right? But the university has sort of standardized itself onto using the Google side of the two choices you can make. So I'm going to be using Google. So when we use AI, we're going to use Gemini. When I live stream lectures, I'm going to use YouTube. When I send you emails, I'm going to send them from sort of a Gmail account. And when I use a search engine, I'm going to use the Google search engine. That's not because I like Google, that's just how it works. With all of that said, I will be adapting material from a course called AI for Beginners that is made by Microsoft. This is useful to us because I will at various points in time be making claims about large tech companies doing certain things in certain years. Both Microsoft and Google have put together a history of AI that suggests they made all of the innovations themselves. This is kind of interesting, and it's sort of not false either. But I will be able to sort of point out when some claims made by large tech companies may not be as true as they would immediately seem if you were only looking at one of them. Okay, having said all of that, it is now time to find the course website. At this very moment in time, I'm realizing I did not yet create the Canvas site for this class. Did any of you notice that? Sorry. I might remember. The Canvas site would have a link to one other website. I'm going to go to that website now. My last name is impossible to spell, but my first name, Calvin, I don't think is that bad. It is mostly phonetic. And I believe we all know how to spell Willamette. If I type this into the default search engine that I'm using, because it is endorsed by this university, I'll get two links, and I can click on either of them. I'm currently going to click on the second one, which is going to go to the courses that I teach this term. You're in Understanding AI, so you can click that link. And this is the course webpage. Are these monitors okay visually for you? Should I turn off some lights or anything? I'm going to fiddle with the lights and do this, okay? I don't know what any of these light switches do. Oh, that's worse, right?
Yes.
Okay. I don't think that changed anything. These buttons aren't labeled. Are you all getting sleepy?
That's good.
This is good?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to try one more if that was popular.
Much better.
Is this too dark? Okay.
Not for those projector screens.
If you fall asleep in class, do not look like you're a sleeper, okay? I'm recording the lecture. Okay. That seems really dark. Okay. This is the course webpage. I will create a link to it from Canvas. Why am I not using Canvas? I'm a computer scientist and I know how to make websites, so I made one. I didn't use someone else's website. That's all. There's nothing complicated about it. I don't have a strong opinion on Canvas or not. I just happen to have already made this class before I found out it was supposed to be on Canvas. There will be some number of changes to this schedule. I don't know if you care about this. I'm currently a 6th-year faculty member, which means I'm being evaluated to see if I get to keep my job next year. They do that after 6 years. One of the parts of that is I'm supposed to go give research talks other places. At least one of those research talks is probably going to fall on a Tuesday. So one of these Tuesdays is going to disappear. I don't know which Tuesday, so I don't know what's going to happen next. Now, I think I know which Tuesday. But that means this whole calendar can be thrown into disarray at any moment's notice. That is your warning. Now, if you are going to miss a class and you want to reach out to me in advance about that, so reasons you can miss a class, dentist appointment, religious holiday, there's force majeure events like Act of God, where you get stuck behind a train for 45 minutes and miss the entire class. If that happens, don't worry, the course materials are right here. You can still view them. I love having you in class. I think you learn more while you're here and you're talking to each other. If something happens, just catch up on your own. Probably if you miss 2 or 3 classes over the course of this term, it won't meaningfully affect your education. If you miss 8, I don't know why you're in this class at all, right? So just make your own judgment about that. Okay, this is the course materials. There is a syllabus. I find, so a syllabus is a legal document, and a legal document means that it has to say certain things in certain ways. So a lot of this information is boilerplate. It may or may not be interesting to you. The interesting thing that is usually bizarrely controversial is my grading policy. This grading policy is if you turn in the final and the final meets the requirements of the final, which we will go over in class, and they are currently posted, you can look at it now, then it is my opinion you have earned an A in this class. Okay, so this was very confusing to exactly one student last year who did not turn in the final and expected to receive an A. Okay, if you don't do the final, you will get a bad grade in this class. Okay, does everyone understand that? Okay, thank you. I thought that was an established norm. I'm saying it now because it's good to establish norms. What this means is that the work of this class is doing labs and causing you to think about things. And when you think about things in a certain way, then that will show up on the final. The final is a written paper, so I'm going to make you write. It is college. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you will have shown you know something about this class and about the content of this class, and I think you will be probably happier and better adjusted in the future, and also probably more employable. And if all of those things happen at once, we'll be very happy. Okay. I don't think there's anything else in the syllabus that is particularly novel, controversial, or non-controversial. So you're welcome to read it, and if you have questions about it, let me know. Okay, now, syllabus out of the way. I think we're good to go. So at this point in time, there is one thing that is going to be added to this website later. Around 48 hours from now, if no one has said, hey, don't record lectures this term, I will add a link to the playlist of all of the lectures for this class. And it will show up down here. It can't be there yet because the lectures don't exist. So I will add it. Okay. I'm going to demonstrate one more time how I found this website because I don't want you to get lost. Creating a new tab. I'm going to use Google. Well, we'll type in Google so we know what we're doing. I don't know what your default search engine is. Last time I checked Bing, I was the first result there too. Calvin Willamette. I click courses. Now, if you don't click courses, we'll do a different example. Okay, this is me. That's my cat. I have a personal web page. This moves up and down. If I decide there's a websites at the bottom, personal web page. This page is slightly confusing, but if you go to teaching, moving my mouse around, it's under the S, first row. There's a little paperclip that says teaching. You're once again back at classes, and then you can go to understanding AI. Okay, so today, if I were taking this class, what I would want to do is I would want to follow along with the lectures on these slides myself, and then I would also open a little Subway Surfers, like TikTok thing down in the bottom right corner. Some of you may be crushing on chess.com right now. You're allowed to play chess.com in this class if you are higher rated than me, but I'm not telling you my rating. So you'll have to speculate, and if you find out, that would be bad. I am currently undefeated against students playing chess in my classes, but that's a tough claim to make because someone who actually knows chess is going to show up someday, right? Okay, there are two ways to view these slides on this website. And why am I calling them slides? You're thinking, this doesn't look like slides to me. Isn't that a bit silly? On the left-hand side, we have a search bar, so you can search for things that I said this term. For example, what is an example of a word I would say? I think I said film earlier today, right? So films will come up a few times in this class. I had to talk about something. If you talk about books, no one's read the same book. How many of you have seen Avengers Endgame? That's like a pretty high density, right? How many of you have read Pride and Prejudice? And like Pride and Prejudice is like the most popular book I can think of. Maybe there's like a more popular book, right? So we're going to use film a little bit. There's a search bar. These are the lectures and labs in order, I hope. This is the name of the class. On the right-hand side of the screen, we have a different table of contents. This is the table of contents for the lecture in question. So for example, if you want to learn about Sudoku, or Sudoku, I don't know how to say that word, you would click on that. We're currently doing Ada and Allen today. There's another format. I don't know why this is called Reveal.js. It should just be called slides. But these probably look like a conventional sort of PowerPoint-style presentation you may have seen before. I am providing you with these two different formats for the following reason. The last time I taught a class where I only provided slides, I was walking around the classroom, as I will do at various points this term as I'm trying to get to know you, and I saw a student that was writing a program to take screenshots of my slides and stitch them together into one long image that looked like a blog post. And this was very offensive to me because I don't think you should ever take pictures of text and save them on your computer that way because it's inefficient, right? Pictures are larger than text. So what I did was I wrote a script that took my slides and formatted them into text. And then I post these on the internet forever. So the hope is that in like 2036, when you're like, wow, that Professor Calvin person had some weird opinions about AI. I wonder if they're still on the internet. They will still be here, and they will not be images. You will still be able to watch this really cool thing you can do with text. Oh, I can copy paste it? Okay. And I can search for it on the internet. And that is a very weird response. But here it is. So I am providing this service to you. I got one comment in the course evaluation last term that said someone liked this, so I'm still doing it. If you hate this, let me know. Okay, here are the slides. Full screen. Today's lecture is called Ada and Alan. It is about two historically significant figures, and it is sort of the launching off point for our discussion about AI. You can start a discussion about AI anywhere. I am not a humanities professor. Even without the humanities background, I suspect I could make an argument that there are discussions that pertain to modern artificial intelligence in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the oldest text I am aware of. I have read portions of the Epic of Gilgamesh, and they seem bizarrely relevant to the discussions about AI we're having right now, so I think people have cared about intelligence for a long time. The reason I'm beginning with Ada and Alan is these are the two people that probably have the strongest claim to be the first computer scientist, and I'm a computer science professor. So it makes some sense to approach things from this lens because it matches my own background, and I think it will probably be useful for you as you are talking about AI with other people. I have found, as someone with computer science in the job title, people assume I am more educated or more interested in AI. Perhaps that's a reasonable assumption. I make no claims on it, but you will now have the benefit of that, and that in my capacity as a computer scientist, I am attempting to talk about AI to you. Here is a little illustration. This illustration was created, as I described earlier, by this sort of introduction to AI course made by Microsoft that they sort of posted online and they wanted other people to talk about, and I'm adapting my lecture from that material today. I did make one edit to this image, and I would like you to take between 15 and 45 seconds looking at this image, try and determine what changes I made, and you're welcome to talk to your neighbor, and I'm starting a timer now. Beep, 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 beep. Do I have any brave volunteers? The penalty for being wrong is that I will say, oh, that's not what I thought. Yes. Okay, yes, here. Okay. Correct, good job. It was not a trick question or anything. Let's see how good I am at using computers, which is always an adventure. Introduction to AI for beginners. What was the class called I said? AI for beginners. AI for beginners has sort of all of these cute little images. So, left-hand side, my materials. I credit the original artists, but I made some edits. We can look at these two images side by side. Open image in new tab. Open image in new tab. I replaced Charles Babbage, the father of computer, with Ada Lovelace. This is a cropped image from Wikipedia, which I have permissions to use. This is AI-generated text based on the rest of the image. I was a computer scientist, and in fact had a PhD in computer science, which meant I went to school for 10 years after I finished high school, which is a very long time to go to school. How long have you all been in school? A very long time, right? And I went much longer than that. I am insane. Okay, so I had never heard of this guy, so I was a little suspicious he was the father of computer. I looked it up, and apparently he was like around, well, Ada Lovelace, the person that I think invented computer science, was doing something called the poetic science, which was writing combinations of words in ways people hadn't written them before that we now recognize as programs. So it seemed to me like Ada Lovelace was the first person to do computer, and Charles Babbage was a guy around that got credit for it. To me, this is a meaningful discussion to bring up in an AI class, because one of the themes or trends we're going to see over time is ambiguity around who or what gets credit for something. So it could be, I don't know what your opinions are, that you perceive that the technologies, the AI chatbots, for example, are perhaps producing nothing original and are simply remixing other humans' ideas and getting credit for it. This is an interesting perception. It's something we can discuss. It might be meaningful, right? The classic example is if I create a document and within this document I type the words, "I am intelligent," and then I print out this document, and then I go over to the printer and read it, I would probably not perceive the printer to be intelligent, right? Yet, if I go to, I said I wasn't going to use ChatGPT, I said I was going to use Gemini, right? Repeat after me exactly. I am intelligent. Let's see. Now we'll say, return the following sentence exactly with no other comments. Your response should be exactly 3 words. I don't know how to get this to print. I would argue this should not be evidence to consider an artificial intelligence to be intelligent, right? There could be other evidence, right? But being able to present the theoretical contributions of someone else does not necessarily make you the father of computer or necessarily make you intelligent. So I made that alteration for that reason. An astute observer may question if perhaps gender has something to do with all of this. And I think that is a great question to have. Okay. From here, we are going to introduce briefly what AI is. Over the course of kind of the next 3 lectures, I'm going to make some efforts to define AI. This is a fraught topic that I have found to have been more difficult with each passing minute, basically. When I first proposed to teach a course called AI 101, my impression was there was a lot of excitement about it around the university. Some faculty members, some staff, some students, different people. It was unclear if there was excitement in industry, so people that were hiring. It's unclear to me whether industry wants you to be taking a class called AI 101 or not, so use your own judgment on that. As I talked to people, I realized I think the excitement was about something that I'm going to call prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is sort of a formal way to describe what you type into an AI chatbot. To me, the study of artificial intelligence and the study of what you type into an AI chatbot are not that related. And the example of how closely related I give is the following. It is likely, if you are an English major or some other major that involves a lot of writing, you probably learn how to type. I think it is unlikely you take a class called typing at the university level. If you are a computer scientist, we spend a lot of time inputting commands to a computer. It is probably likely that you type while doing that, yet the computer science department does not teach a typing class. Prompt engineering, to me, is this instrumental tool we may use in the study of AI. It is something that happens incidentally, but it is not the same thing as the academic study of artificial intelligence. One of the benefits to this is that when I was young, when I was but a small child, there was in fact a class I took called typing. I got very good at typing, and then everyone started using smartphones that didn't have keyboards on it, and all that time I spent learning to type now causes people to make fun of me for not being able to use my smartphone as well and having to get out my laptop computer every time I have to send an email. This is humiliating to me, and I find it embarrassing. So I'm going to try and teach at a slightly higher level of abstraction, because my concern is if I teach you to be very, very good at typing commands into an AI chatbot in 2026, in 2028 you will graduate and all of those skills will be useless. But if I teach you how an AI chatbot works, you will graduate in 2028, you will see a new release of Claude Sonnet, or whatever they're calling it right now, and you will say, that's basically as much better at the other things as I expected it to be, because I more or less know how AI works and it's not really that complicated. So that is the goal. That does not mean we are going to spend 0 minutes typing things into AI chatbots. We're going to spend a great number of minutes typing things into AI chatbots. But we're going to be doing so as a means to an end, not as an end in itself. Okay, so here's my definition of AI. This is not actually my definition. I took this from Microsoft, and I didn't disagree with them, so I didn't alter it. Artificial intelligence is a scientific discipline that studies how we can make computers exhibit intelligent behavior. That is, do those things that human beings are good at doing. No one ever wants to define intelligence. This is good. It's hard to define. If you want to be really popular at parties, say intelligence is a statistics in Dungeons and Dragons, everyone loves that one. That always kills. And so, what is intelligence? I don't know. So, I'm breaking down some of these things as opinions. Science, scientific discipline. Artificial intelligence, to me, despite actually beginning with the term art, does not feel particularly artistic or necessarily creative. And I don't know if that's just because I come from the scientific side of it, but that's my impression. It seems to me like the way artificial intelligence is developed is that teams of researchers get together, they build something, they test it, they publish their results, other scientists look at the results, and this process repeats iteratively over time. So it is a technology that is developed through experimentation. In this way, it is similar to another technology. For example, I can say the internal combustion engine, which is what we used to use before all of the cars became electric, right? Over time, someone found out that if you put a tiny amount of explosive liquid in a cylinder and blew it up, you could turn a wheel around. This was very exciting, and people got much better at it over time. And modern internal combustion engines are better than the internal combustion engines of 5, 50, and 500 years ago. Artificial intelligence is similar in that way. Computers are similar in that way. Light bulbs are similar in that way. I perceive it as very similar to a technology. I do not necessarily view, when I say not an art, how do I not think it is similar to an art? When I read the Epic of Gilgamesh today, it seems to have exactly as much insight into the human experience and exactly as beautiful language as the fan fiction that I can't tell you about in class that was written yesterday I read online is, right? So it seems to me like art perhaps persists and is timeless, and technologies iteratively improve over time. To me, artificial intelligence looks like a technology. The term computers is floating around in here. I do not know, and I am curious, so you can tell me if you want, exactly what any given human perceives when they think of computer. There used to be these devices called iMacs. Do these still have it? Have you ever seen one of these? I think there was like a pretty good period of time where if you said computer, someone would imagine something that looks like this, so it's like a screen with a keyboard in front of it. There's certainly nothing wrong with that definition, though it's a hyper physical, sort of intrinsic or tactile understanding, which doesn't really deal with some of the underlying things that are happening in computers, because, for example, I would argue this looks conspicuously like a television, which is some sort of different technology, right? So what is a computer? I'm clicking around like crazy. I'm losing my mind. Okay, I'm back. A computer is itself a technology. Usually computers now are developed by computer scientists, but computers predate computer science because Ada Lovelace was using computers to do things before the term computer science existed. And what techniques was Ada Lovelace using? Ada Lovelace was interested in linguistics, philosophy, and mathematics. It was not my impression that Ada Lovelace had a strong appreciation or interest in physics. And physics matters because this computer, I'm holding a computer here, is made out of things that physically exist, right? Wait, only one of the monitors broke? That was interesting. I'm not going to pick this up again. That seemed sketchy. I am going to check that I'm capturing sound. Okay. Physics became a lot more important when people stopped thinking about computers and wanted to start making them. And now there's all these pesky things that happen in real life. Like, have any of you heard of data centers? You know how they have to physically exist in an actual location? This is extremely annoying, right? Many of us in theoretical computer science hoped that data centers would be an idea, but now people are actually making them, right? This is a major complication. So a computer is a technology that thinks. I personally disagree with tying the idea of intelligence to humans, and the reason for this is we all know that animals exist, right? It seems like animals can do things that are relatively intelligent, right? So there's documented cases of animals using tools. This seems very exciting to some people. When I woke up an hour and a half before my alarm this morning because I have jet lag, my cat was very excited by this because my cat has feelings and emotions and needs and wants to do things. And I was like, geez, this cat seems a lot like me, and I'm a human, right? I have feelings and emotions and needs, right? So I was interfacing with my cat this morning, and I was like, I don't know, this cat is showing signs of intelligence, right? I think there's probably things other than humans and animals that might be intelligence. I gave the example of, can a character in a novel be intelligent? I don't know, like, what's that even mean, right? But I think if you are Microsoft and you're writing this definition, you're solving a different problem than I am. I'm trying to think about what I mean when I say artificial intelligence. Microsoft's not trying to do that. Microsoft is trying to sell you a product to make money. And the product they're trying to sell you is AI. And the way they're going to make money is they are going to sell you an AI that is going to allow you to lay off some of the workers at your firm and replace those workers with a computer. If that is what the product you're selling is, you want to be able to claim that your artificial intelligence can do things that humans are good at doing without all of the pesky humans around. You are a pesky human. Think about some things that are annoying. So I have to sleep 8 hours a day. Do you know how wasteful that is? I could have so much fun in 8 hours. Think about how much fun you can have in 8 hours. Just think about it real quick. Okay. In 8 hours, I can watch 16 hours of YouTube videos at 2x speed, right? And if I put 2 on the screen at the same time, I can watch 32 hours, right? I eat almost every day. Sometimes I eat even 3 times a day, and once in a while I'll eat 4 times a day, right? I have never seen my computer eat anything. Now, I have to keep it plugged into the wall, and something comes out of that wall, and I don't like to think about where that stuff coming out of the wall comes from, right? But I have never seen my computer eat. I mentioned I have jet lag, so I was flying in an airplane, not by myself. I cannot physically fly. I was on board an airplane. My airplane experienced something called a ground stop, which happens when a bolt of lightning strikes an airport, and someone in the government calls up the airport and says you can't have any planes flying for a while. Have you all heard of this? This was shocking to me. I was pretty sure planes could fly through lightning because they're in the sky all the time where the lightning is, right? Okay, so anyways, I was on this plane for a long time, and I stayed awake for 46 and a half hours because I calculated it. It turns out I was much, much worse at addition at the end of those 46 and a half hours. Like, I tried to tip a barista, and I don't know if I tipped 2% or 200%. I have no idea, right? That barista could be having a very good or very bad day. And then I went to bed and I woke up and suddenly I could do algebra again, right? So when I tried to make 2 bagels for breakfast this morning, I got 2 on the first try. I didn't accidentally make 20 of them. My sense is if I leave my computer on for 46 and a half hours, it is exactly as good at addition as it was when I first turned it on. So there are important differences that computers have. There are important benefits that computers have. The entity that drafted this definition has a financial incentive to make a claim that computers can be as good at humans as something without some of the accompanying costs. I'm going to talk about computers a little bit. I hope you find this interesting. There is always a risk as a computer scientist that I talk about computers a lot because they're like my favorite thing, right? So I try not to dwell on computers too much. I separately think it is interesting and useful to talk about what computers are, so I'm going to do that. I pressed a button. Okay. My claim. I'm making this claim. This is in the voice of Professor Calvin Deutschbein and myself. Originally, programming was discovered by Ada Lovelace to operate on numbers following a well-defined procedure. So, what do I mean? Programming is a way of writing down something you can do to a number. I gave the example of addition being something you can do to a number. If I give you 2 and 3, you can add them together and get 5. This is conspicuously similar to a program that is very simple. I can ask you, for example, to add together the numbers 2 and 3 and get 5, to multiply the numbers together, 2 and 3, and get 6, or to exponentiate the numbers together, 2 and 3, and get 2 to the third, which is 8. I can ask you to do all of these things. Ada Lovelace's contribution to the sort of creating the field of computer science was putting together a very specific way of combining words such that you could define any one of these operations precisely in a way that someone else could understand it. This is quite similar, and I give 2 examples here. I always think of grocery list. I don't think Ada Lovelace had grocery lists because I don't think there were grocery stores in the 1800s in the way I perceive them, but there were recipes and there were knitting patterns. A knitting pattern is very similar to a program. Anyone knit? Cool. That is not as many hands as I expected. Oh, do you have knitting you can show? Everyone look at the knitting. This is the knitting. Okay, fact check me while I'm talking about knitting. So, last time I was knitting something, I was looking at a screen on a computer because I'm a computer scientist. And that screen on the computer was giving me a series of commands in sequence that would say, for example, knit 18 times, purl twice, knit 2 together. And these are different activities I can do with my knitting needles, right? And they perform an operation over string. And if I follow the instructions exactly, at the end of it, I get a scarf. Are you making a scarf? That looked like a scarf.
Yeah, I'm going to attach a clip to it, but yeah, and I also don't know any of those terms because I haven't written them.
That's okay. It doesn't. I don't think it matters what the terms are, right? So, I was knitting and purling and knitting 2 together, and I think I had to do one other thing because when you knit 2 together, that decreases the number of knits, and I had a fixed number of knits, so somehow I was creating new knits out of something. Anyways, when I was doing all of these things, when I finished following the instructions, I had a scarf. My favorite food to make is the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and it turns out, no matter what happens, every time I take 2 slices of bread, put butter on one of them, put jelly on the other one, and then combine them such that the butter and jelly are touching each other, I always get a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, no matter what. Sometimes you do something really weird. Please don't judge me. Sometimes you put pickles on your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, right? This is normal? Okay, stay with me, right? If you put pickles in the middle, you get a different sandwich at the end, right? You get a peanut butter and jelly and pickle sandwich, right? But as long as you follow the recipe exactly, you get the exact same thing. This is all that computers do. Every single time I press, in my case, the Windows key on my keyboard, and I type Firefox, which is the browser I'm using. I should be using Chrome because I said I was using Google products this term. It will always open the Firefox window on my computer, no matter what. every time I press that key and type terminal, I get this little command line prompt I have here. I'm a computer scientist, so I know what all of those numbers mean, right? And every single time at this command line, I type echo, I am intelligent. Every single time the computer will tell me I am intelligent. If I type it more than once, it will do the same thing. Computers are like me when I'm following a recipe or I'm following a knitting pattern, that I do the exact same thing every time and I get the exact same result. They differ in that way from my cat, whom I love very much, where sometimes when I pick up my cat, she purrs and makes a cute noise and like maybe tries to lick my nose, which is very annoying because her tongue is very prickly, right? And sometimes when I pick up my cat, she tries to escape. And that is very painful for me because she has lots of sharp points on various parts of her body and she's very squirmy, right? So it is not true that every time I interact with my cat I get the same result, but it is true that every time I interact with my computer I get the same result. So what do I claim? It is possible to program a computer to do something if we know the exact sequence of steps that we need to do in order to achieve the goal. I can program a computer to follow a recipe. I can program a computer to follow a knitting pattern. I cannot program a computer to be a cat. An example that Microsoft presented of using an intelligence task was figuring out how old people are by looking at them. Now, okay, I would like to point something out. In general, you never want to know how old someone is by looking at them, because the only thing that can happen if you do that is you can accidentally do age discrimination. Age is a federally protected category. Remember when I say don't ever commit felonies by accident? There are felonies all over the place, folks, right? Have any of you ever tried to legally obtain uranium? Me neither. I think that's a felony. Don't do it. And so just don't do any felonies, and one of the ways to not do felonies is to not accidentally do age discrimination. Nevertheless, I hear it is great fun. Many of you have perhaps heard of Saturday Night Live. Yes. So I was aware there was a skit on Saturday Night Live where for Mother's Day, Matt Damon was meeting a family, and I think there was a mother and a daughter, and Matt Damon said, "Wow, I thought you were sisters." And this was perceived as a compliment to the mother figure, who liked being perceived as young by Matt Damon, who is well liked in society for portraying Odysseus in the hit film Odyssey, right? So, I understand that if you are a service worker, for example, working on Mother's Day, it could be highly advantageous to you to be able to recognize people's wages, or ages, because that will enhance your wages. Sorry, I combined wage and age there. So, age. It is a thing. It is a material reality. So, I don't really know why this picture has someone wearing these kind of cool steampunky goggles, right? But anyway, some computer thinks this person is 37 years old. And I know what you're all thinking. 37, that's a prime number. Were you all thinking that? Is it prime? Is there a mathematician in here? Okay, I'm going to check. Okay. I guess we trust AI, and we probably also trust Wikipedia. Okay, 37, prime number. Okay. If you asked me to look at another human and determine how old they are by looking at them, I don't know that I could tell you how I do that, right? I don't cognitively think that I'm often looking at people, guessing how old they are. I know when I started working here, people kept asking me what classes I was taking, and I perceived myself as not looking like an undergraduate student, but I don't know what the difference was. You can question whether I look the same age as you feel, right? I don't know if that's interesting. But it is separately the case that sometimes I see someone and think, oh, that person might have been alive when Ronald Reagan was president. I've had this thought a few times recently. And I don't really know where that comes from. It would be hard to write down. What this means is I cannot instruct a computer to look at a human and tell me if that person was alive when Ronald Reagan was president. I simply don't know how to do this. Now, I could probably figure it out. It could be a scientific process, right? But as soon as we start doing science to do this, we're doing artificial intelligence anyways, right? So, when I look at a human and I, for some reason, have some perception about their age, I don't know exactly how or where this process comes from. And I also, again, I want to reiterate, sometimes it is bad to do this. If I were a hiring manager, I would never want to know anyone's age, because as soon as I know age, I could commit a felony. And I don't want to commit felonies. It is much easier to make it impossible to commit felonies than to simply just resist the temptation. So for example, like, if you were to find $1 billion in a suitcase on the side of the road, right, you would probably want to take that suitcase even if it's stealing, right? But, just for you, I have already removed the suitcases containing $1 billion from the sides of all roads in Salem, Oregon. So you will not be tempted, and therefore you will not commit any felonies, right? I did that for you. I didn't just want the $1 billion myself. I have a different example. Some people think waterfalls are pretty and or beautiful, aesthetically pleasing. Doesn't matter what synonym you use. I suspect humans who see waterfalls like some waterfalls more than other ones. And I don't know why. Here are two popular hike destinations in Oregon, Aloha Falls and Fairy Falls. I selected two that I've been to. So this does not have, I didn't do the two Silver Falls, which are right here near Salem, because I didn't have pictures of them. You don't have to pick, right? But perhaps if you went out a hike and went to both of these, you would like one more than the other. And it would be hard to put your finger on why you like one more than the other. Now, I have learned over time, just from observing myself, that I tend to like these sort of veil-like. So I perceive that as sort of being veil-like. It's like the shape of cloth or something. I tend to like those waterfalls better, but I don't know why. So I perceive Aloha Falls as less beautiful than Fairy Falls, but I couldn't program a computer to tell me which waterfalls I find more pretty. The only way I can figure this out is I look at the pictures of them and then I decide if I'm going to go see one or not. So, this all supports the claim I'm building up to. There are some tasks that we do not explicitly know how to solve. What should I sign the email I send to a hiring manager when I'm applying for a job? Do I say sincerely, best, or regards? I don't know. One of them is optimal, right? Someone could figure this out. I don't know. When I look at a photograph, and in this case we can avoid discrimination because I can look at a picture of myself. I was looking at a picture of myself when I was a child earlier this week because I had the airplane I was on, I was visiting a place I'd been as a child. I couldn't tell how old that child was, right? I was somewhere between 0 and however old I am now, years old, and I don't know which one. It was actually easier to tell from looking at the photograph how old I thought the photograph was than looking at myself. So consider determining the age of a person from their photograph. Also, you can use height as a proxy when humans are small enough because they grow for a while, but at some point humans just stay the same size for the rest of their life, and then I have no idea what to do, right? It seems like these sort of tasks that we don't explicitly know how to solve them, they're just kind of learn by doing. So I just show you 80 people and tell you how old they are, and then I show you the 81st one, and you're like, oh, that's a 37-year-old. It's like, okay, sure, it looks like the other 37-year-olds. Is there a way to program a computer to do that? That's not the same thing as a recipe, right? I could come in here and bake a cake in front of you 1,000 times, and you would probably be able to bake a cake without a recipe after I do that. You might also be very bored, right? It would be nice if we had a technology that could automate these tasks for us. It would be nice if I could tell my computer to bake a cake instead of giving my computer a recipe, because I don't actually offhand know the recipe to bake a cake. Which reminds me of the hit single Make That Cake by Lunch Money Lewis featuring Doja Cat. Anyone like that song? No? Am I showing my age? Who's the cool artist now? It's not Doja Cat anymore, right? Okay, think about this carefully. If one of you wants to tip me off which musical artist is now cool, just send me a quick email and I will update all of my references for this class. So, do you all remember the Summer of Brat with Charlie XCX? Right? I taught CS 151 full of Brat references, and no one in the class got them. And it was very sad to me because only the 3rd and 4th years apparently knew about Brat. It was devastating. Okay. All right. It is time for you to talk to each other for 2 reasons. There's like some study or something that says when you just like talk at people for 90 minutes, they don't learn that well. I don't know if any of you have experienced this. I've been really enjoying just monologuing for a very long time. And there's also a study that I did on myself that after I talk for a long time, my voice starts hurting. So, in the interest of servicing both of these studies, you are now going to think, pair, share. So, you should turn to someone near you, and you should discuss these 3 questions before we go on to the next thing. And I am going to start a 5-minute timer while you do this. So please have a productive discussion. Ready, go. I'm getting water. I'll be back, and then I might try and talk to you.
Class
beep 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 beep. Okay. I previously mentioned Saturday Night Live. I'm not necessarily particularly a fan of Saturday Night Live, but I begrudgingly acknowledge the spell it has cast over the American psyche, right? There are similar programs that are not only on Saturday called Late Night, which is like a talk show format. I believe the first one was made by Johnny Carson, like when Reagan was still president. And there's one I'm aware of. There's a human named John Oliver that may be a household name. We're aware of John Oliver. Okay, at some point in time, John Oliver started making a television show, which I also didn't watch. But I watched an interview with John Oliver about how the television show was made, which was more interesting to me, in the same way that AI is more interesting to me than prompt engineering. One of the things that John Oliver talked about on this show is that the show format they used was creating a video and uploading it to, I believe at the time, HBO, which was a streaming platform that did not have ads. The traditional late night format was screened on television with advertising breaks every some number of minutes. What the team behind John Oliver, so probably not John Oliver himself, I think John Oliver was like a character portrayed by an actor on television, and there was actually a team of people describing like what words this person made. So John Oliver was perhaps a program. John Oliver said when adapting the late night form to be a single video, they had to put in things that felt like commercial breaks to make the flow of the show work well. So my classes also have commercial breaks in them. And one of the commercial breaks I'm going to do right now is I'm going to play the mini crossword for you. And I'm going to do this in the hopes that you start playing the mini crossword every day. You get tricked into doing this for fun. Maybe you can do the real crosswords. And then later in this term, when I use a crossword puzzle as an example for something in this class, you will have slightly better appreciation for it. So I'm pulling back the curtain a little bit. Now I'm going to play the mini crossword, and then we're going to get back into the lecture. So I use the LA Times Mini because I do not give New York Times my money, and theirs costs money. I believe today is August 25th. The Lion King Lion. I believe there's more than one lion, but there's one named Simba, right? Which is 5 letters. Okay. Asian supermarket featured in a Michelle Zauner, I can't read that, memoir. Have any of you heard of Crying in H Mart? Is that? Yeah. I'm going to do H Mart. You think that's correct? Okay. Imam's faith. I believe that's Islam. This is an easy one because it's Tuesday. They get harder during the week, I think. High points, to me this could be too many things because I immediately thought of peaks and apexes, which I think are both 5 letters long. So I'm going to come back to this later. Eyelid woe, I feel like that's tear, but I'm not sure. So I'm not going to put it in. Armada members. Is Armada a household term? Are you familiar with the term Armada? Maybe do you like this one? When I was in, this is going to be oddly specific, when I was in 4th grade in my history class, we learned about the Spanish Armada, which was financed by, it was financed by colonialism and imperialism and stealing wealth from the indigenous people of the Americas. So sorry that got heavy quickly. It was one of the worst things that ever happened. Anyways, they stole all this money and they made a bunch of weapons with it, which is not probably what you should do. Anyways, the Armada was formed of ships. The Spanish were planning to use this to challenge the then ascendant British Empire. They failed. That's why you speak English. No more for me, thanks. I feel like that's I'm set, but I'm not sure. Asia's something peninsula. Do you all know this stuff? You're just letting me hang out here? Okay.
Malay.
Sorry?
Malay. AY.
AY? Oh, Malaysia? Okay, that's, okay. That was very obvious when she said it, thank you. Put one's foot down while driving. Fast cash dispensers.
ATMs.
Who knows what ATM stands for?
Oh,
I think someone said automated teller machine, so whoever said that, good job. You should be more confident in life and speak louder, but you also shouldn't listen to me telling you what to do, right? What do I know? Okay. The entire time I've been teaching, so I mentioned I've been 6 years now, I've just been speaking louder and faster the whole time, and people are saying I'm a better teacher, but I'm saying the exact same words. Okay. High points. It's feeling like peaks now, right, folks?
Style.
Wow, I have no idea what a sty is. Oh, that looks painful. Oh, I'm closing that. I don't like looking at that. Okay, that's gross. Sorry. That probably needed a content warning or something. I don't know if you all are as squeamish as I am. Some of you may come to the conclusion at some point this term that, like, there's a very specific reason I'm not a real doctor and I'm a fake doctor, and it's because I can't do humans at all. Like, humans freak me out. Oh, now I'm hungry because I thought about being a human. Okay. It's rough out there. See, if I were a computer, I wouldn't be hungry right now. Do you know how much fun it would be to be a computer? It might not be fun at all. I hadn't thought about it. Okay. I'm going to introduce a conception that mattered a lot 5 years ago and doesn't matter as much now. But it is useful because the term AI is getting used a lot now. I'm going to illustrate this with an example. We're still using Google products because we're supposed to. I can type in AI, and we can see that interest has increased over time. I'm going to do 2004 to present. So starting around whenever this is, April 30th, 2022, people started talking about AI a lot, apparently. We can contrast this with something that's timeless, like the Beatles. You all like the Beatles, right? They're a bug. Okay. And it looks like interest in the Beatles has been relatively stable over time. But I bet if I look at, we'll say January 1st, 2006 to January 1st, 2016, full year? I don't know what that means. We can see that in the olden days, oftentimes the Beatles were slightly more popular than the AI. So AI just became a big thing recently. When something suddenly dramatically increases in popularity, what this means is that a large number of people that were not previously using the term are exposed to it and begin using it. And those people haven't necessarily had the time to all talk to each other and agree on what they're talking about. So my sense is there is no widespread agreement among what AI means, and I gave this example with prompt engineering. So I am introducing a formulation that was historically used to talk about AI that I basically don't see anymore at all, but it's a way to sort of begin to motivate our thinking about what we mean by AI. And we're going to use the terms weak and strong. I think weak and strong have some connotations to them. Just don't worry about the connotations. I'm not being careful with my words here. These are just historic terms that exist. We take them as is. Weak AI is an AI that does one thing that a human can do. I think so fondly, I suspect you are all Spotify appreciators, or at least many of you are, and if you're not, perhaps Apple Music, I think Tidal's out there. Back in my day, we used Pandora, which was cool because it was named after a literary figure. right? 400 years before I was born, that's too long. When I was young, and you don't know how old I am, though you can probably speculate, and you wanted to listen to some new music, you had to go to the record store, and I'm going to paint a picture here. You had to talk to someone that was stoned out of their mind about what you were feeling that day, right? So I would go in, and I would be like, hey, friend, I need something that sounds like a frog turning into a screwdriver. And they'd be like, perfect. Here's Death Magnetic by Metallica. And I'd be like, that wasn't really what I was going for, but it sounds sick, right? And then you would make Metallica your entire personality, right? And this was the only thing we had to do. Unfortunately, that got replaced by a website called Pandora and then Spotify and then so on, right? So now, when I want to listen to music, I open an app on my phone and I press a button that says Bad Omens Mix on it. And it plays me a bunch of music I kind of like but didn't like as much as if I curated the list myself, but I can do it safely while driving, right? So that's an example of weak AI. Strong AI would be, so that person that worked in that record shop, I didn't tell you this, but that person also makes really good pizza, right? It's just a coincidence. And so, Pandora is not very good at making pizza, right? But if I had an AI that could both recommend songs for me to listen to and also make a pizza, well, that's getting more general or strong. And so, this is something that can do anything a human can do. Much of the buzz right now about AI seems to be about strong AI and what is increasingly called artificial general intelligence. So, not specific intelligence. General intelligence is a very weird idea to me because I am an academic and 90% of the things I know are about a very niche field of computer scientists that like 6 other people in the world care about, right? So I don't necessarily perceive humans as being very good at general intelligence because, for example, I could not repair a sink. I can change tires on cars, but only by following instructions. I often forget to look both ways before I cross the street, but I can publish peer-reviewed papers in scientific journals, right? So is human really a good baseline of general intelligence? Perhaps, perhaps not. But artificial general intelligence, or AGI, has sort of become the stated goal of many large AI companies as what they are planning to sell to somebody as a future consumer of their work, and they're going to make money of that. It is often the case that when we encounter weak AI systems, such as the Spotify recommendation algorithm, probably a lot of you use Instagram, and you probably have Infinity Scroll on there, so after you finish seeing things from accounts you follow, it just keeps showing you garbage that makes you want to buy things for like 10 hours, right? If you used to have to do that, you had to go to the mall and talk to your friend's older cousin who would tell you about stuff you wanted to buy, right? So we used to have humans do that. So it probably, I don't know, my impression was, when I was using Instagram and I was partaking in Infinity Scroll and I was scrolling on Instagram, I did not perceive Instagram as being intelligent. But in fact, recommending things that you might want to look at has traditionally been a task that humans did for each other. And this is very different from my friend's older cousin, who is someone I could actually have a relationship with, who I could ask about how to make a pizza, who I could ask about how to get a job at a record store. Because my friend's older cousin was a human that was capable of doing general intelligence tasks, right? Instagram cannot tell you how to get a job at a record store, though perhaps it can show you content about getting a job at a record store. It's a slightly different formulation, right? I have the recommendation algorithms used by streaming services here. I think the early things you talk to, so Siri and Alexa, probably showing age by now. There's also, is Cortana still a thing? Does that sound like something that still exists? Okay. Some of you nodded yes and some of you nodded no, which is very confusing to me, but I trust all of you. Okay. So I think when humans were first vocally talking to their computers, they were talking to these sort of limited digital assistants that couldn't do that much stuff. And so that was a weak AI. It was capable of transmitting sound into text, but it wasn't really doing anything interesting or novel with the text, right? If you're a tech company and you're trying to sell your AI, I think what you want is you want someone to imagine, oh, I can talk to my computer and it can do tasks for me. So I can say, computer, prepare my grocery list, and it can do that completely. And it doesn't just take prepare your grocery list and turn it into text. Weak AI in some domains is very good. I took a class in computer vision in 2018. That is a long time ago. Think about, I don't know, things that were going on in 2018. It might be worthwhile to see if you can remember who the president and speaker of the House were in 2018. It might be interesting to think about if you can remember how much a gallon of gas cost in 2018. It might be interesting to think about what the most popular film that came out in 2018 was. This is a long time ago, right? In 2018, I took a class on something called computer vision, which we would now call part of weak AI. Computer vision is the task of showing an image to a computer and asking the computer what that image is of. So I could take this picture and the computer would say, watch. It would not say what I would say because it's not intelligence. This is an impeccable and timeless classic. This is the Timex Weekender. It pairs well with every wardrobe. I have on here a NATO strap, which is highly regarded for matching any color you have because it has the black, gray, and the orange. So you can pair this with any outfit. Unfortunately, the problem with this Timex Weekender is it costs $30, and the hour hand is slightly offset from the hour. So I am always off by 1 hour what time I think it is, either early or late, which makes it very, very difficult to get places on time. So if I'm ever exactly 1 hour late or early to class, it is the result of my Timex Weekender. I am not intelligent enough to use another watch. Separately, and this is kind of embarrassing, I'm not very good at reading analog clocks. I wore a digital watch growing up, and then I decided they didn't look cool with my outfits, but I never actually learned to tell time. So if I'm not exactly an hour late, that's because I can't tell time at all. In 2018, computers were outperforming humans at recognizing images. I know this because I looked at a collection of images and tried to tell what they were of. And there were things that were kind of difficult for me. So if I saw a stop sign at a pretty low angle, I couldn't tell what it was. I was recently driving at night, and there was a freeway overpass that passed over a road, and I couldn't tell what it was. I couldn't tell if I was looking at like part of a mountain or part of a building until I got quite close. But my car had cameras in front of it and knew I wasn't about to hit a wall because it has an automatic shut-off detection. This is very weird to be surrounded by a computer that's better than you at vision, because I use vision all the time for things. I'm almost always looking at things. When I'm awake, I am looking at something. Computer vision was outperforming humans in 2018. That is a very long time ago. You can probably create your own opinions on this, and different people have different opinions. I have never been talking to an AI chatbot and been like, this thing is as smart as me. I often think, why would you put those words together in that particular combination? That's my opinion. I think separately it's very impressive that they're putting words together in any combination, right? But I also have met 2-year-olds who are not as experienced putting words together as I am, and I only know they're 2 because I'm told they're 2, okay? I can't tell by looking at them. And I'm like, well, that's pretty impressive for a 2-year-old. This is sort of more how I feel about AI. If I show a 2-year-old a watch or a pedestrian overpass, the 2-year-old can't necessarily recognize all those things yet. We're not working with the same working memory, right? So computers are better at recognizing watches than 2-year-olds, but they seem less intelligent to me. This leads to the open question, which is, if we have an artificial general intelligence, and say we want to give a human or an AI or my cat a test to measure if they are intelligent, or perhaps how much intelligence they have, like an intelligence score or something, how would you do that? I don't think anyone has solved this problem. I believe one of the benefits of this class taught at this type of university is to actually ask this question and have you equipped to ask this question if someone tells you in a future saying, hey, can we use AI to do that? You say, well, can we like figure out what do that even means, you know? Can we use an AI for customer service? I don't know, right? Like, what does that mean? And so, I always like to tease this. This is my cat that woke me up this morning. Is she intelligent? And someone broke into my slides and put positive affirmations for my kitty cat on here in case she sees them. But that's not actually part of the class, right? So I don't know. I don't know that we can answer whether my cat Ursula is intelligent, right? I want to instruct you. That's a strong claim. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to say it's the truth. I'm going to stand by my words. Many things I am telling you today are commentary or trying to give you things to take about. I'm going to say the answer is not IQ, no matter what. I think IQ is wrong, and I think even more strongly, I'm going to make like value judgments about it. I think it is bad and evil. And I think it's bad and evil for these 3 citations. I'm making a strong claim, so I'm providing evidence to back up my claim. I've spoken a great number of times to other humans who are interested or invested in AI that say, someday there will be a chatbot that has an IQ of 300. That stresses me out. It looks to me every time I look into IQ, which would be an interesting idea. It would be interesting to just have a toolbox that you can take and apply to something and get a number back that says how intelligent it is, right? That seems like that would be nice, right? It looks like every time someone does this, they're doing scientific racism, which is kind of a misnomer because it's not scientific, right? It's sort of like a form of racism that is meant to look like science. In like the last 48 hours, there was like a high-profile scientific racism case in the news. It was, I believe, at the University of Ghent or something. I haven't updated my slides to reference that, or there would be references to them if it happened 72 hours ago, right? Be careful with IQ. I don't know what instruction you've received on IQ. I heard a lot about IQ growing up. I thought it was an interesting idea. I didn't think anything about it. I went to a discussion-based class in college that had 1/3 of the students you had in this classroom. I mentioned something about IQ, and someone who is more aware of IQ than I was explained to me why that is a limited concept and a potentially dangerous concept. I am giving you that same experience now. It is hyper-relevant to this class because everyone wants to give IQ tests to AI. The AIs are going to do very well at IQ tests because they're designed by people that design the IQ tests. This should not be surprising to us, right? Check out these if you're super into IQ. If you want to talk to me about IQ sometime, it is not the point of this class, but you can come talk to me in my office. And I have opinions on it, and you may as well. We are not going to do the last think, pair, share, because I think we're out of minutes, right? No, I can't tell time. We have 3 minutes left? This is a good stopping point, so I'm not going to introduce a new comment. If you are on the wait list in this class, send a add request in Sage to join the class. Thank you to the student that reminded me to say that. If your friends want to take this class and couldn't enroll because there were too many people, let them know. We do actually kind of look like we're filling this room, but I will let people in this class. If you need any kind of accommodations or don't want the YouTube video to exist, send me an email. Bring your computers on Thursday. Do not be too loud when you leave because I'm letting you out a bit early. So just try and keep your voices down and not distract other classes. Have a great day. Welcome to class. Come talk to me if you have any questions. I am looking for one person that does strength lifting or resistance training to talk to me about a personal question. So come up here if you want to do that.